How's it going, YouTube? So I figured I'd give a channel update. I haven't posted in a while, so let me tell you what's been going on. I didn't get a whole lot of work done on the Corvette over the winter. Very little, actually. I ended up hurting my back doing some deadlifts, and then I re-injured my back shortly after that lifting a iron modular block, essentially like a Terminator Cobra block. So I've been kind of recovering from that, having sciatica on and off. Feeling pretty good right now, so I'm gonna get things going again. Let me show you what I've got planned as of right now. Oh, something I forgot. I was gonna say this when I was sitting down earlier. I did pick up a project car. I flew down to Florida to get it, and then drove it back up to Kentucky where I live, or at least tried to. So it ended up being a complete catastrophe. The car's set for a long time. I'm finally just now digging into it. If you wait till the end of the video, I'm going to show you what it is and go into what happened and what I'm doing about that. But just for a little teaser for you, I'll show you that at the end of the video. Alright, so let me tell you where I'm at with the Vette. So the last time I drove it, I hit 20 pounds of boost at 6,000 RPM, and I plan on revving it out to at least 7,200. So that's looking like 25, probably more like 28 pounds of boost on the top end. And my injector duty cycle was already at 87% with pump gas. So I wanted to have enough headroom to where I could run E85. So these Injector Dynamics 1050s wasn't looking like they were going to cut it. So went ahead and bought some 1300s. Also I wasn't comfortable running that much boost on a factory cylinder head. The aftermarket cylinder heads generally have a thicker deck and just a better alloy. So you're less likely to lift a cylinder head, less likely to push water, all that stuff with an aftermarket casting. So went ahead and bought some Trickflows. I'll show you those next. I'm also going to be swapping the camshaft. I'll show you that. Now you can see it. There's been some aesthetic changes. I put BTR valve covers on it and some MSD ignition coils. I know these things have a bad reputation in the LS community, but I usually don't pay attention to what most people think, because most of them don't know what they're talking about. Everybody hates these MSD wires too, yet I've had this set for 10 years. They've been on and off the car a dozen times, and they still ohm out to 26 ohms. A lot of people, they'll put them on here after they delete the factory heat shields, and then they wonder why they have problems. I have a thermal boot on there. They're there for a reason. They make a difference. And just like with these coils, people put them on there, don't change the dwell and the tune. They don't use the extra harness, and all that stuff matters. So I'm gonna give them a try. If they don't work out, I'll just put some OEM coils on it. But I'm assuming that I'm not gonna run into problems, because I tend to ignore the advice of most, because they just don't give good advice. So that's where I'm at. Injectors, heads, and a cam swap. Those are the big ticket items. Now we'll go over here, I'll show you. So this is the cam. Brian Tooley Racing Red Hot cam. I did have a custom cam that I had spec'd, and I ran it by Brian Tooley, and he basically said that this cam was close enough, and he assured me that it would actually make more power than what I had in mind. So I'm sure that he is probably right. He knows what he's talking about. So went ahead and just bought that. And then I'm going to do a shaft rocker kit at the same time. I'm reusing my current springs because they don't have very many miles on them. It's a PAC 1219X, and Brian said that they would work for that cam. So I'll run them till there's maybe 25,000 miles on them, and then I'll probably get some 660 platinums. We'll see. But that's where I'm at right now. Now I'll go show you the cylinder heads. Here I've got my new cylinder heads for the Corvette. They are Trickflow Gen X 215 CNC. They've got the competition port. And right now I'm installing ARP rocker arm studs. This is kit 2347207. And as the case with most cathedral port heads, you know, when they've been ported, you expose the rocker arm bolt hole, and you know, your threads can protrude into the port, especially with these studs. You know, that protrudes quite a bit, and I just can't leave that alone. I don't know if it really matters or not. At the very least, it makes me feel better to trim those back. So I'm going to show you exactly what I do to do that and what you're going to need. First of all, you are going to need some kind of thread sealant or thread locker. You don't want to be pulling oil into your intake tract through your bolts or studs. So I'm using Permatex Thread Locker Blue. You could also use Loctite 242 or 243 or the dedicated sealant. You're going to want some kind of brake parts cleaner to make sure the holes are cleaned out well. Clean the bolts or the studs off too. Make sure there's no oil residue to interfere with your thread locker. You're going to want some kind of Sharpie. If you're using a stud like this that's got a black oxide coating, you're going to want something like that's silver. And when you have it all the way installed, you're going to mark the up position so you know what side to grind on. You're going to want probably a thread file. I haven't had to use it unless I forgot to use my rethreader nut, which is this M8 by 1.25. So any kind of grinding you do on these threads is going to booger them up. If you put this on first, when you go to take it off after you've done grinding, it will correct the misalignments. And often I can just use this with my fingers. It doesn't take a whole lot of force to correct those. If you forget to put this on though, you're probably going to need a thread file. But otherwise, just use one of these. It's plenty. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to put the stud in, mark it facing up with the marker, okay? And then make a cut with a hacksaw. We're not going to grind the whole thing, otherwise it's going to get really, really hot. It could mess with the heat treat, and at the very least, it's going to make it to where you can't touch it for a little bit. So I like to make a cut right at the bottom of the threads. I'll go ahead and saw through that, and this is what that looks like when that's done. Now, I haven't gotten into the threads at this point, so now is the point where I'd put this on. Okay, and so this one doesn't have a marking. I haven't installed it into a hole yet, but whatever that marking is, that's where you're going to grind. And here's one that I've already ground on, okay? You can see here's the marking. I ground about a 45 degree. I ground from the bottom up to about the 5th root. And in case you don't know, the things that point or that stick out, those are called crests, and the bottom part is called the root. Okay, so go to from the bottom up to about the 5th root. Of course, you know, you can eyeball it. What I like to do is just trim it until I think it's kind of close, and then I install it into the head, and it's usually never enough, and I go back and do some fine-tuning to that. But as you can see, like, this one's done and it's flush. That looks really good. I'm happy with that. So that's the goal right there. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, if you get it really close, it's not going to affect performance. I like to get it as flush as possible though. And then, you know, after you have that all done, then you can make sure everything's cleaned out, blow it out with air, use your carb cleaner or brake parts cleaner, and then apply your thread locker or sealant. And make sure you use it liberally. You know, you really want to make sure those holes are nice and sealed. Last thing you want to do is start pulling oil into your intake ports because you didn't put enough thread locker on there. All right, if you're still with me, I appreciate that. Without further ado, I'll take you outside and show you the project car. All right, so here it is, the new project car. It is a 97 Cobra. It's a 4-valve, 4.6. Some of you may have already been able to figure that out based on the IMRC delete plates that were laying next to that Cobra badge. Took the motor out a couple weeks ago, and I'm actually not doing an LS swap. I'm going to put another 4.6 back in it. Believe it or not, I actually really like these cars, and I like that engine. But this is the first time I've owned one. But you know, I've always liked them. I've always wanted one. I love the way they sound. So unfortunately it blew up before I could get it home, and I wasn't even driving it hard. It was just a mechanical failure. So let's get into that. I'll show you what happened. So I already have down here passenger side cylinder head, and you know, you can see broken valves, bent valves, combustion chambers got chewed up a little bit, obvious piston to valve contact, right? So let's go over to the engine. So passenger side, this piston was completely chewed up, broken, and then this one's pretty beat up, and of course you can see piston valve contact on those two. The driver's side was unaffected, and as you can see, the passenger side cam gear sits here and the driver's side cam gear sits here. So it was the passenger side that was slipping past the keyway. Now the whole reason that happened was whoever installed the harmonic balancer on this car, they didn't torque the bolt down properly, or it might have been a torque to yield bolt that they reused. I'm not exactly sure, but I do know that it was finger tight, and it allowed the harmonic balancer to back off just enough to not be sandwiching those gears. And that sandwiching, that press fit, is really what keeps them in place. It's not the keyway. The keyway just helps you put them on and get them in perfect time. That sandwich fit is what really keeps them from not being able to move. So yeah, it's very unfortunate that happened. But I do already have another motor that I've gone through. New oil pump, new water pump, all new gaskets. Checked. I did a leak down test, and I put a new. Well, I put a billet secondary tensioner on the passenger side head because there's a little bit of a timing error from the OEM location of the secondary tensioner on the passenger side head, which that's something I've learned just from diving into these cars just recently. So you know, I have a lot of knowledge on LS stuff, but I'm just now getting into these, so you know, I'll learn more as I go. But I'm pretty excited. I can't wait to get it in there. Can't wait to drive it. I'll post some videos of that. So thank you for watching. If you're still here, give me a like and subscribe if you feel like it, and maybe leave me a comment. Thanks. Take it easy.